today. This house is mine now.
My friends, imagine losing your parents, then losing your home the same day. Not to strangers, but to the brother who grew up praying beside you. This story is shared with you by Rabia, bringing you another heartbreaking moral lesson. My friends, before we begin, tell us, what country or city are you watching from? The meeting took place in the family compound, the same yard where laughter once filled the evenings. Now crowded with plastic chairs and curious neighbors, a framed photo of their late parents rested on a table, untouched. Ada stood near the wall, dressed simply, her hands folded, eyes lowered. She had not spoken since morning. Grief still sat heavily on her shoulders, and poverty clung to her like dust. Her brother Kunlay paced in front of everyone, phone pressed to his ear, gold watch catching the sun. "This discussion is taking too long," Kunlay said loudly, ending his call. "We all know what needs to be done. The house must be sold. I have buyers waiting." Ada lifted her head slowly. "This is still our parents' home," she said softly. "We buried them barely 3 months ago." Kunlay laughed, sharp and impatient. "Sentiment doesn't pay bills, Ada. While you were struggling, I was building something. I carried this family." Murmurs spread through the crowd. An aunt cleared her throat. "We should read the documents properly." Kunlay waved her off. "I've handled it. The property is in my name now. Everything is legal." He turned to Ada. "You can take your clothes today. I'll give you transport money. That's more than enough." Ada's lips trembled. "You are my brother," she whispered. "Is this how you speak to me in front of people?" Kunlay's voice hardened. "Don't play victim here. Life is not charity." Silence fell. The neighbors avoided her eyes. Blood had become business, and love had been reduced to paperwork. Ada said nothing more. She looked once at her parents' photograph, then at the house that had raised her. She remembered her mother saying, "Family is shelter." Standing there, exposed and unwanted, Ada understood how fragile shelter could be. Around her, no one intervened. Fear and comfort kept them quiet. A cousin shifted uncomfortably and muttered, "This doesn't feel right." Kunlay ignored him. He straightened his jacket and said, "Meeting closed." No prayer, no respect, just authority. In that moment, something broke quietly. Not Ada's spirit, but the illusion that family always meant protection. Money had spoken louder than blood, and everyone heard it. That day, injustice did not whisper. It stood confidently, signed with a name, and wore the face of her own brother before witnesses who chose silence without protest and walked away. They grew up under the same leaking roof, sharing a single room where night prayers were said before sleep. Their parents believed discipline and faith could shape any future, no matter how small the beginning. Every morning, they knelt together as their mother prayed aloud for wisdom, humility, and unity. Ada listened closely, repeating the words in her heart. Kunlay listened too, but his eyes often wandered beyond the walls, toward the road where cars passed and better lives seemed to live. When their father fell ill, everything changed quietly. School fees became arguments, food became measured. Ada was the first to step back. "Let Kunlay continue," she told their mother. "I can wait." She left school after secondary classes and began selling vegetables in the market, waking before dawn, returning with aching feet and counted coins. Whatever she earned went home. She never complained. She believed sacrifice was temporary and family was permanent. Kunlay stayed in school. He wore his uniform proudly, even when it no longer fit well. He spoke often about success, about how poverty was an embarrassment he would escape. "I will not live like this forever," he said once, brushing past Ada as she sorted tomatoes. "Just watch." Their mother corrected him gently. "Success without character is empty." Kunlay smiled politely, but the words never stayed with him. As years passed, Ada became the steady one. When their father finally died, she took over responsibilities without being asked. She negotiated debts, comforted their mother, and worked longer hours. At night, she read old textbooks by candlelight, teaching herself quietly, hoping one day to return to school. Kunlay noticed none of it. He was busy networking, borrowing phones, chasing appearances. When he got his first office job through a distant contact, he returned home late, speaking loudly about city life. "You should see how people respect you when you dress well," he told Ada. "Nobody respects suffering." Ada answered calmly, "Respect starts with how you treat people." He laughed. "That's why you're still here." The warning signs were always there. Kunlay hated sharing credit. When neighbors praised Ada for holding the family together, he grew distant. When relatives sent small support, he asked why they didn't send more. He spoke of inheritance long before death ever came, asking questions that made their mother uncomfortable. "Why are you counting what is not yours?" she asked him once. "I'm planning," Kunlay replied. "Someone has to think ahead." Ada said nothing then, but she remembered. She remembered how easily ambition turned sharp, how pride grew loud when humility stayed quiet. She remembered choosing peace over pride, service over attention. Those choices shaped her differently. They taught her patience, restraint, and moral clarity. While Kunlay chased the image of success, Ada learned the weight of responsibility. Besties, be honest. Who do you relate to more in this story, Ada or Kunlay? Long before money entered the conversation, their paths had already divided, not by opportunity but by character. Even as children, the difference was clear. Kunlay wanted applause before effort, reward before service. Ada believed effort itself was duty. She learned to endure without recognition, to give without record. That unseen discipline would later become her strength. It was not education or money that prepared her for what was coming, but years of choosing right when no one was watching. Those years would speak loudly. The moment came faster than Ada expected. Chairs scraped against the concrete as Kunlay stood up, holding a brown envelope high, as if it were a trophy. The compound was full now. Neighbors leaned over fences. Church members who had come to console the family remained seated, uneasy. Even tenants from the back rooms gathered, sensing something important was about to happen. "I don't want any more arguments," Kunlay said. "I have documents here, legal documents." He pulled out papers and spread them on the table. "The house is under my name. I processed it while our mother was still alive." Ada's heart skipped. "That is not true," she said quietly. "Mama was sick. She never signed anything like that." Kunlay scoffed. "You think I would lie about something this serious?" He turned to the crowd. "Ask anyone. I've been handling family matters for years." An elderly churchwoman frowned. "But we were all here when your mother said—" Kunlay cut her off. "With respect, Mama Grace, emotions confuse memory." He tapped the papers. "These do not lie." Ada stepped closer, her hands shaking. "Let me see them." Kunlay pulled the papers back. "You wouldn't understand legal language." He lowered his voice, sharp enough to cut. "This is business, not pity." Whispers filled the air. A tenant murmured, "So she has no share?" Another shook his head slowly. Shame burned Ada's face. "You are doing this in front of everyone?" she asked. "If you wanted to discuss this, we could have done it privately." Kunlay laughed, loud and confident. "Why hide truth? Or are you ashamed because you have nothing?" The words landed heavily. "I stayed here to take care of them," Ada said, her voice breaking. "I gave up my schooling. I worked for this family." "And what did that give you?" Kunlay replied. "Hardship. I chose differently." He turned to two male cousins standing nearby. "Help her pack. She needs to leave today. Buyers are coming next week." Ada froze. "Leave? Where will I go?" "That is not my problem," Kunlay said. "I'll give you transport money. Don't say I'm wicked." A cousin hesitated. "Kunlay, this is harsh." Kunlay's eyes hardened. "Do you want problems with me?" The cousin looked away. They moved toward Ada's small room. She followed slowly, numb. Clothes were pulled from a wooden box, folded carelessly, placed into an old bag. Her mother's wrapper slipped to the ground. Ada picked it up, clutching it to her chest. Outside, people watched. No one stopped it. A church brother whispered, "God will judge." But judgment did not stop hands from pushing her forward. At the gate, Kunlay handed her some cash. Take this, don't come back here making trouble. Ada looked at him, searching his face for familiarity. When Mama prayed for us, did you hear her? She asked softly. Kunlay turned away. The meeting is over. She stepped out with one bag. The gate closed behind her with a hollow sound. The house stood tall, unchanged, but something sacred had been stripped away in full view. Blood had been replaced with documents, compassion with authority. My friends, have you ever seen money change how families treat each other? Ada walked away slowly, past neighbors who lowered their eyes, past a home that no longer recognized her. In that public moment, injustice did not hide. It announced itself boldly, and everyone saw it. Her steps felt heavy, but her back stayed straight. Behind her, conversations resumed, uneasy and hushed. Kunlay remained inside, already making calls, already planning profits. No one followed Ada. The silence that trailed her was as loud as the insult itself, sealing the injury completely that day. Silence followed Ada like a shadow. She slept the first night on a church bench, wrapped in her mother's faded wrapper, listening to mosquitoes and distant traffic. By morning, shame had settled deeper than hunger. She washed her face at a public tap, straightened her dress, and thanked the church caretaker before leaving quietly. An old friend offered 2 nights on her floor, then gently said relatives were uncomfortable. Another promised help but stopped answering calls. Ada learned not to ask twice. She moved between borrowed spaces, careful not to overstay, carrying her bag like a reminder of how visible poverty could be. In the streets near the compound, whispers followed her. She angered her brother, someone said. Maybe she was greedy, another replied. Ada heard them and said nothing. Silence became her shield. Each evening, she knelt wherever she slept. Her prayers were short, steady, without accusation. God, keep my heart clean, she whispered. Tears came later when no one watched. She cried into cloth so her grief would not disturb hosts who had done her small kindnesses. Across town, Kunlay thrived. The compound changed quickly. Fresh paint covered old cracks. Tiles replaced the worn floor. Music played loudly on weekends as he entertained friends and church associates. Photos appeared online of renovations, captions praising progress and blessings. Ada saw one picture on a borrowed phone. She studied the gate she had walked through with one bag. She did not comment. She returned the phone and thanked the owner. Days stretched. Work was scarce, but she found small cleaning jobs and market errands. She saved coins carefully, refusing pity money offered with questions. When insulted, she bowed her head and kept moving. Dignity was the only thing she still fully owned. At night, she remembered her mother's voice. Endure quietly, it said in her memory. Ada endured. She chose restraint over bitterness, patience over noise. Though unseen, something strong was forming inside her. The pain slowed her steps, but it sharpened her resolve. Justice, she believed, did not need shouting. It needed time. She avoided the compound entirely, taking longer routes to prevent reopening wounds. When church members passed her, some greeted her warmly, others pretended not to see her. Ada accepted both responses without complaint. She focused on survival, not explanation. One afternoon, rain soaked her clothes as she waited for a job that never came. She stood under a shop awning, shivering, repeating a psalm her father loved. Strength returned slowly. Meanwhile, Kunlay's voice grew louder. He boasted openly about expansion, about new plans, about favor. People congratulated him publicly, unaware of the quiet cost. Ada learned to separate noise from truth. She carried herself with care, speaking gently, working faithfully, sleeping lightly. Each morning she rose before dawn to pray again. Each night she forgave again. Her body was tired, but her spirit refused collapse. The waiting did not weaken her. It disciplined her. In the stillness, patience became preparation. Though the world celebrated her brother, Ada prepared herself quietly for whatever tomorrow demanded. She did not know when truth would surface, only that endurance was not defeat, and silence, held long enough, could become its own testimony. She breathed, steadied herself, and kept walking forward alone. On the third week after Ada left the compound, Pastor Samuel came looking for her. He had been a friend of her parents for over 20 years, the one who prayed at their wedding and buried them both. He found Ada sweeping a church corridor, her movements quiet and careful. "I heard what happened," he said gently. Ada lowered the broom. "Sir, it is finished." "It is not," Pastor Samuel replied. "I know what your parents said about that house." He listened as she spoke, not interrupting, his face tightening with each detail. When she finished, he sighed. "Your mother was clear. She said no child should be displaced. She asked me to remind you both if greed ever entered." The next Sunday, Pastor Samuel visited the compound. Kunlay welcomed him with a smile that faded quickly. "Pastor, everything is settled," Kunlay said. "The house is legally mine." Pastor Samuel nodded slowly. "Legality and righteousness are not the same." Kunlay laughed. "With respect, sir, you are a pastor, not a lawyer." "I am also a witness," Pastor Samuel replied. "I saw the will before your mother fell sick." Kunlay's tone hardened. "Old conversations are not documents." Pastor Samuel asked to see the papers. Kunlay refused. Neighbors gathered again, sensing tension. "There is no need for drama," Kunlay said loudly. "Ada has accepted her situation." "She has endured it," Pastor Samuel corrected. "That is different." Kunlay dismissed him. "I am busy. If you want to help her, give her money." Pastor Samuel left without argument. That evening he met Ada again. "Do not fight him publicly," he advised. "Noise will only feed his pride. Truth needs space." Ada swallowed. "So I should do nothing?" "You should do what you have been doing," he said. "Stand firm. Keep your record clean. Let facts mature." He prayed with her, his voice steady. "Justice delayed is not justice denied." Ada nodded. Though doubt trembled inside her, still she obeyed. She chose patience again, not because she was weak, but because wisdom demanded timing. As Pastor Samuel walked away, he made calls quietly, to elders who remembered, to witnesses who still lived. Kunlay did not notice. He was too busy celebrating authority to see accountability forming behind him. His calm unsettled Ada more than anger would have. She trusted him because he never chased applause. He reminded her that truth survives when lies rush ahead. "Let him think he has won," Pastor Samuel said later by phone. "Pride announces itself early. Evidence speaks later." Ada held on to that counsel, breathing through fear, choosing stillness over reaction, and allowing wisdom to guard her steps. Time would prove which voice endured longest. Kunlay's fortunes rose quickly after Ada disappeared from the compound. Within months, his name circulated among local contractors and traders. He spoke confidently about expansion, signed small deals, then larger ones, always arriving late and leaving early, projecting importance. At church, he increased his giving publicly. Envelopes were lifted higher, testimonies mentioned him by name. Soon, he was invited to sit closer to the altar, praised as an example of diligence and favor. He enjoyed repeating his version of events. "I carried my family alone," he told friends. "Some people prefer suffering to responsibility." When asked about his sister, he sighed theatrically. "She chose pride. I tried to help." Each retelling polished him and reduced her further until sympathy leaned his way. Renovations continued, new tenants arrived. The compound buzzed again, this time with admiration. Kunlay posted photos of progress, captions thanking God for promotion. Comments multiplied. The louder the praise, the quieter his conscience became. Plans followed success. A respected family introduced their daughter. Engagement discussions began. Kunlay spoke of weddings and future estates as if destiny itself had signed agreement. During meetings, he dominated conversations, interrupting elders, correcting memories. When someone mentioned his parents' wishes, he redirected smoothly. "They trusted me," he said. "That is why things are orderly." But small cracks formed beneath the polish. A tenant questioned a signature date that didn't align with occupancy records. An uncle noticed a witness name misspelled. At the land office, a clerk quietly flagged a sequence error. None of it reached Kunlay immediately. It traveled slower, through whispers, through careful phone calls, through Pastor Samuel's patient inquiries. Kunlay sensed resistance and grew defensive. People envy success, he preached during a men's fellowship talk. Even family can turn against you. Applause followed, though a few faces remained still. Pride demanded affirmation, and he demanded it often. Meanwhile, Ada stayed unseen, but her absence became noticeable. Some church members asked why she never attended anymore. Pastor Samuel answered vaguely, protecting timing. He collected copies, statements, and recollections. Truth assembled itself without announcement. One evening, Kunlay reviewed documents alone and felt unease he dismissed as fatigue. He reassured himself aloud. Everything is legal, yet repetition betrayed anxiety. He began to rush decisions, sign faster, speak louder. Pressure mounted invisibly. Success built on injustice requires constant defense. The one cast out was restored with dignity. My people, do you believe success without integrity can really last? Kunlay's rise demanded energy, explanation, and control. The more he gained, the more he guarded, unaware that exposure does not hurry. It waits until confidence peaks, then speaks once. While Kunlay planned celebrations, evidence gathered quietly, patient as gravity. When the truth finally moved, it would not need permission. He walked through the renovated rooms at night, touching walls as if they might answer him. Each improvement felt like proof, yet required reassurance. He avoided certain elders, skipped old prayers, and replaced reflection with activity. Invitations multiplied, calendars filled, and expectations pressed closer. He told himself momentum was protection. Still, the smallest question unsettled him. A delayed signature, a missing stamp, an unexpected call made his temper rise. He corrected others sharply, controlled narratives aggressively, and rehearsed explanations in advance. Power had become performance. The stage was crowded, the lights were bright, and the exit signs were invisible. What he called favor was actually speed, and speed left no room to check foundations already cracking beneath his confident steps. Ada returned quietly, not by chance, and not alone. Pastor Samuel sent word through a church member asking her to attend a community Thanksgiving service scheduled at the compound. She hesitated at first. "I don't want trouble," she said. Pastor Samuel replied calmly, "You won't cause any, just come." When she arrived, heads turned. Ada wore a simple dress, clean and modest. Her posture was straight, her face calm. No anger, no desperation. She greeted the elders respectfully and took a seat near the back. Pastor Samuel sat nearby, nodding once, steady. Kunlay noticed her late. When he did, surprise flickered across his face, then amusement. He leaned toward a friend. "She has come to beg," he whispered, confident. "They always come back." Ada did not look at him. She listened, hands folded, breathing evenly. Around her, people murmured. Some remembered the day she was sent away. Others studied her now, puzzled by her composure. Pastor Samuel opened the program with prayer. He spoke of seasons, of truth that matures, of patience that outlives noise. His words settled heavily. Ada felt it, the shift, subtle but real. During announcements, Pastor Samuel called her name. "Ada, please stand." The compound went quiet. Kunlay frowned. Ada rose slowly. She did not rush. She did not speak. "This young woman," Pastor Samuel said, "has endured much without shouting." He paused. She did not ask for this moment. It was asked of her. Kunlay laughed lightly. "Pastor, we are here to give thanks, not reopen family issues." Pastor Samuel met his eyes. "We are here for truth," he replied. Ada remained standing, supported now by attention she had not sought. An uncle cleared his throat. A church elder nodded slowly. Kunlay shifted in his seat, irritation replacing confidence. Ada spoke briefly. "I am here because I was invited," she said. Nothing more. Her restraint unsettled him. He expected tears, accusations, weakness. Instead, she offered presence. Calm became authority. Behind the scenes, Pastor Samuel had prepared. Witnesses sat among the crowd. Copies rested safely elsewhere. Ada knew only that she was not alone anymore. Kunlay leaned back, smiling tightly. This will pass, he told himself. He underestimated silence shaped by endurance. He mistook humility for surrender. As the service continued, anticipation thickened, something unspoken waited. Ada felt it, steadying herself. She did not need to fight, she only needed to stand. For the first time since she left the compound, power shifted without noise. The ground beneath old assumptions moved slightly. Kunlay felt it too, though he could not name it. He watched Ada with narrowed eyes, still convinced he controlled the story. But stories change when the quiet return is prepared. The engagement ceremony drew the largest crowd the compound had seen in years. Chairs filled every corner of the yard, stretching into the road. Music played loudly, drums beating in celebration, while neighbors and church members laughed and greeted one another. Kunlay stood proudly beside his fiancée, dressed sharply, receiving congratulations with the ease of a man who believed his position was secure. He moved through the crowd confidently, shaking hands, smiling wide, speaking about the future as though nothing stood behind him except favor. Pastor Samuel was invited to open the event with prayer. When he finished, he did not return to his seat. Instead, he remained standing, his Bible closed in his hand. The shift was subtle but noticeable. "Before we continue," he said calmly, "there is a matter of truth that must be addressed today." Unease rippled through the gathering. Kunlay laughed lightly, waving his hand. "Pastor, today is a joyful day. Let us not bring heavy things into celebration." Pastor Samuel looked at him steadily. Celebrations built on falsehood cannot stand. The compound fell quiet. He gestured gently. "Ada, please come forward." A hush followed as Ada stepped out from the crowd. She walked slowly, her head high, her expression composed. She carried no papers, no bag, nothing but herself. Whispers spread as people recognized her, memories rushing back of the day she was sent away. Pastor Samuel lifted a thick folder. "This," he said, "is the original will your mother wrote with her own hand, witnessed by 3 elders of this family, months before her illness worsened." He opened it deliberately. It states clearly that the family house remains shared property and that no child has the authority to remove another. Kunlay's smile disappeared. "That document is fake," he said sharply. "This is a setup." "Then explain this," an elderly uncle said, stepping forward. "I was there when she wrote it." Another elder followed. "So was I." She spoke clearly. Murmurs swelled into voices. "Pastor." Samuel raised his hand for calm. "These copies," he continued, "are official land records showing alterations made after death, not before. Dates changed, witness names altered." Kunlay stood abruptly. "This is an attack on my character." "No," Pastor Samuel replied firmly. "This is a correction." He turned fully toward Kunlay. "You used your sister's silence as permission. You used law without righteousness. You humiliated blood for money, and you called it wisdom." Kunlay's fiancée slowly stepped away from his side, confusion and fear written across her face. The crowd watched as Kunlay's confidence drained, replaced by anger and disbelief. Ada finally spoke, her voice steady. "I did not come to disgrace you," she said. "I came because truth was invited, and because silence has already done enough damage." Pastor Samuel faced the people. "Justice is not private when injustice is public. What was done before witnesses must be corrected before witnesses." The air felt heavy. Kunlay opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. For the first time, noise failed him. In that moment, justice was no longer a rumor or a prayer. It stood visible, undeniable, and heard by everyone. Consequences and reversal. Silence followed the revelation like a heavy curtain. Kunlay stood unmoving, eyes darting, lips pressed tight. The crowd that once praised him now stepped back, creating distance without instruction. His fiancée left with her family quietly. Elders requested the documents formally. By evening, a report was filed, signatures questioned and transactions frozen pending review. Within days, consequences unfolded. Church leadership removed Kunlay from public roles. Business partners paused negotiations, invitations stopped, friends avoided his calls. The compound that once echoed with music grew still. He remained inside, blinds drawn, reputation collapsing faster than the renovations rose. Apologies came late and weak. Kunlay attempted explanations, blaming misunderstanding, blaming pressure, blaming everyone but choice. No one argued anymore. The facts had spoken. Silence answered him. Ada was called forward again, this time not to stand alone. The elders flanked her. Pastor Samuel placed the original will back into her hands. "This belongs to the family," he said, loud enough for all. An uncle announced restitution, access restored, profits accounted for, tenancy rights corrected. The gate that once closed against her opened without resistance. Ada did not smile. She bowed her head slightly and thanked them. When offered to speak, she chose restraint. "I asked for nothing," she said. "I only wanted the truth." People approached with apologies, some sincere, some embarrassed. She accepted them gently, without rehearsed anger. The church arranged temporary support. A room was prepared. Work followed. Stability returned slowly, honestly. Kunlay watched from a distance, unheard. Where his voice once dominated, it now failed to carry. He learned that authority taken can be removed, but character loss takes longer to rebuild. The contrast was clear. The one cast out was restored with dignity. The one who shouted was silenced by evidence. Justice did not humiliate for pleasure, it was corrected for balance. My friends, do you think this justice was enough, or should Kunlay have faced more? That evening, as Ada walked through the compound again, neighbors greeted her respectfully. She passed the same walls, now seeing them differently. Restoration was not triumph, it was an alignment. Kunlay remained inside, alone with choices made loudly and consequences delivered quietly. The reversal was complete, not because anyone celebrated it, but because the truth had finished speaking. By morning, officials arrived to seal disputed files, and notices were posted openly. Elders scheduled a family meeting to restructure ownership transparently. Ada was given keys again, not as victory but responsibility. She accepted with measured gratitude. Kunlay declined meetings, citing illness. No one chased him. Consequence, once delayed, moved steadily. The community learned quietly. Protection fails when pride leads, but patience, guided by truth, restores order without revenge. In time, accountability replaced applause, and memory corrected rumor, leaving lessons that outlived property, ceremonies, and the fleeting comfort of borrowed power and status games. Justice did not return Ada to the compound as a victor, but as a steward. She moved carefully, aware that restoration without wisdom could reopen old wounds. When Kunlay finally asked to see her, weeks later, she agreed, but not privately, and not without witnesses. She listened as he spoke, not defending himself well, not apologizing fully, but acknowledging loss. Ada forgave him quietly. Forgiveness, she understood, was freedom, not reconciliation at all costs. My family, she learned, is not proven by blood alone, but by character revealed under pressure. Love without boundaries invites harm. Humility without truth becomes silence that enables injustice. Ada kept her boundaries firm. She reclaimed her place, not as someone who needed approval, but as someone who knew her worth. The house no longer felt like a prize. It became a responsibility again. She chose peace over revenge, clarity over noise. Kunlay chose distance, learning slowly that choices echo longer than words. Pastor Samuel reminded the family, delayed justice is not weakness, it is discipline. Ada carried that lesson forward. She returned to work, rebuilt her life steadily, and served quietly, the way she always had. In the end, the story was not about property or money or public shame, it was about choice. Pride chose speed and fell. Patience chose truth and stood. When blood fails to protect, conscience must lead. And when justice waits, it arrives with strength, not cruelty. That was the lesson left behind in the compound, long after voices faded and appearances changed. It reminds us that integrity survives exposure, that silence can be strategic, and that God honors those who wait rightly. Justice may arrive late, but it never arrives empty. It restores order, reveals hearts, and leaves wisdom where pain once lived. That truth remains for every listener today onward. My friends, if this story touched your heart, please like this video so others can learn from it too. Subscribe to this channel for more real African moral stories about family, choices, and justice. And besties, don't forget to share this story with someone who believes silence means weakness. Because today you saw that patience can speak louder than noise.